It's a different take. There you go. Yeah.
I don't think. I think I've only seen 10 bad episodes of Ultraman in my life.
Jesus. Well, yeah. The thing is, like, less toy commercials. So, well, I mean, Bandai will fix that soon enough.
No,
But
it's still a toy commercial through and through. They've not got a single episode of Zet without introducing a new toy.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's more of a Bandai thing. But yeah, you're right. Like even back in the day. But Audacity started.
On a
They
side
made
note, by the way, welcome to this Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider 01. I'm Vashi V.
Whoa, 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 whoa! We're not
Yeah.
streaming, bro.
Yeah, we are.
Who the fuck is?
Oh, we have the fucking.
No, I have this whole thing set up, right? Why are you streaming? Bro? I have like a whole overlay and everything set up. God damn it! Pause your stream, motherfucker. I'm starting mine.
I have no idea what's going on.
Or I left.
Fuck up. Okay, so are you streaming or do you want me to switch
I
over?
just paused it like you said.
Okay, good. Recording.
Alright, keep recording.
Alright,
give me a
Bashi.
second. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's going live now. Right. Audacity in 3, 2, 1. Mark.
Mark, Vash is not here.
Alright, whatever. I have the audio recorded anyway. Well, it's gonna be dead air now, but I mean, I don't know if he has auto start, but considering he was talking, I'm guessing he had freaking.
Yeah, he has auto start on.
Which means we're live!
Yes, that was the joke.
God damn it. It's the worst.
I have to make sure my Digimon isn't dying.
Oh.
Now is really not the time to think about
You
that.
know what? It's fine.
But
This is a shit slow
it's-
start, so like, you know, back to the good old days, right? You know, one last time.
Yeah.
To remember what kind of shit show this writer podcast usually is. Alright,
look,
Vashi,
it's
are we
gonna be
live?
shit if you invite me,
Yes,
hands
we are
down.
live.
Like,
Alright. Alright.
So,
Is there-
to reattempt this,
I mean, do you want a recount with your Audacity just in case?
and I trust it.
Alright, cool. I've got recording anyway.
So, again, welcome back to the Toku Portal podcast. You can ignore the first couple of minutes joke by Rai. Thank you. Very fun. I've been waiting for that for
I
months
had
now.
to do it once. I had to do it once.
God damn it.
Just start the podcast before anyone actually knows.
But
these are
welcome
the jokes, people.
to the podcast for the series finale of Kamen Rider 01. I'm Vashi V, and joining me today is...
Right.
Do I go first?
Sure.
I have the air now. I am Platinum, and this is my face for once.
And Rye.
And 0.
Welcome to Kamen Rider 01, episode 45, finale.
Final.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty special episode because we're ending the show. Also, I mean, Ryan might not be a regular on the writer stuff for a while too, so, you know, I guess there's the
Yeah.
finale for that arc, I guess, of the podcast too.
Yeah, no, school is getting super busy, so I have to drop some things. So I'm going to be dropping the Rider podcast. I'll still be doing Kira Major, though.
That's fine.
He
I mean,
cannot be a student and a writer at the same time, but at least he can be a student Sentai.
what about Forza?
Well,
I mean,
Gentaro can do it, but
so
Ryan,
Forza was
not
a high
so
school
much.
student, so he didn't also have a job.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's true.
But yeah, once before I left, I had to start the podcast like before anyone, without like saying anything. Like had to pull that.
And unfortunately, it was on us instead of the original planned member, because that was original planned for King. But she ended up having to bounce out before it happened.
But I have to say, it was all worth it to see Vashi's eyes pop out of his head as he didn't know what was going on.
Because I started bouncing between, because I've got the YouTube preview up. I'm like, why does it say we live? Oh! Which one of them hit it?
Yeah, this piece of work. Especially because I'm like, all right, I'm setting it up. Setting it up.
The one that was having a bad time not laughing.
And that's when I realized that you were holding it in. I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm just like,
Professionalism.
everyone's screaming. I don't know what's happening, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Welcome to an even more chaotic version of this podcast.
Crap, we're gonna be here for 2 hours.
No, I don't know about this. Anyway, back to this episode.
Kamen Rider 01. The final battle. Aruto versus Hirobi. I had been saying that, like, yeah, Hirobi will probably be the final boss. But, like, now that we're here and it's happening, it's like, oh god, I wish it wasn't.
Not like this. Not like this.
Not like this.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that, though? Like, I'm interested to hear your take
it's
on
just
that.
like I wasn't expecting 01 to have such an emotional ending. I thought it was going to be standard Rider, where, like, okay, they beat up the Ark and blow up a satellite, and that's it. I was expecting this to just end on a Rider kick against a giant machine.
Like the way for me it was a matter of the fact of, because they put us so much in depth with especially these particular two characters, to understand the motivations, the mindsets and the hearts of these two particular characters, and then to have Aruto still basically be the evil guy at the start of this, I was unprepared for. I was prepared for the standard Rider versus Rider fight of good guy versus bad guy, not two people who were basically right, going about it the wrong way. I wasn't prepared for that emotionally.
Right, that's interesting. I mean, like, as we were reading some tweets, or Vashi was reading it last episode, and Fua's actor was like, be prepared for something that writers never done. We're like, yeah, sure. Right? Like unless Aruto becomes the villain or some shit, like this ending is not gonna be like something we haven't seen before. And then they actually went and did an ending we haven't seen before.
I mean, yeah, it was fairly different, I would say. Like, some things kind of felt the same, but some things were pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially considering, well, like, let's go with like that, right? Like, normal ending fight with the villain, which they actually did port in this, which is like the second fight, which is like, all right, I guess it's a writer show, so we have to have this. I mean, it sort of made sense, but it's like, realistically, that fight wasn't 100% necessary, the second one. But they did do that one thing that nobody expected, which is, do we want to get into that, or are we gonna hold off? Yeah, I'll hold off until like we get to that point. But yeah, they actually had a unique ending.
When it comes to that fight, I would say that, like, it I saw it partially as, I'm not really sure where the show's going to try to go with this fight. Like, if the show is going to try to necessarily make Aruto out to be, Hirobi's savior, if it's going to be kind of more gray, and so there's the dynamic of Hirobi and Aruto going on at the same time as this weird meta dynamic between 01's new suit actor, which isn't Seiji Taikawa like it has been, fighting Hirobi, who is suit acted by Seiji Taikawa. I feel like I know I butchered that name.
No, I know it, right? It's like the whole dynamic of like new lead main stunt actor versus Mr. Kamen Rider. right?
Yeah, like when I've looked at the behind the scenes stuff that's been posted on Twitter for it, that I think Tom Constantine or Austin Ragone, one of those old school guys, posted. I was I saw them saying they wanted this to be like the new suit actor and the old suit actor facing off, and like that's why they put so much focus on this fight. So it was kind of emotional on that level too, and I found that also compelling.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, considering like what Vashi said, like Fua's actor was doing with like how he henshins and like all the stuff that they talk, and like the scene that was cut when him like
Him
yelling
screaming out
Aruto's name, which is the first time he would have said it in the show.
God, I wish that was in there. It would have been so good.
So the thing is, like, again, it just shows like how much attention to detail everybody's paying. Everything like, I mean, there's a scene later on near the end where it's like Yua's giving a speech, and like that's super intentional, right? Where it's like, oh right, like this is the female writer who survived, and it's like the non-binary writer who survived, and guess what? They get to fucking like talk to the audience straight off.
Oh yeah, they're like, here's our representation.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like
just right at the end there.
I love
Just like,
the
see, we didn't kill them.
right. Plus they give
Hey.
such a great message too.
I was gonna say, speaking of Valkyrie, she lived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, not only is this unprecedented for a female writer, it's unprecedented for a tertiary writer.
Yeah, it's true. Usually, well, I mean, they've been kind of hesitant to kill the thirds lately. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
you're right. It's
but it
pretty
happens pretty
freaking
often.
rare.
Yeah.
In like a writer versus writer show, it's pretty rare.
And that's what worried me. Like, the tertiary
Yeah.
writers die a lot, so I was just like, oh god, the female's the tertiary, they're gonna kill her. That's two things against her that means that could possibly happen, and I'm just glad that they showed some a little bit of restraint as far as that goes.
Yeah. I was gonna say, well, they killed off Naki, but I'm like, technically they killed off everyone in Matsubo Jinrai. They just came back, right? So it's like,
Yeah,
So
I
that
don't think
doesn't count.
Kuroki actually died, though. I
well, they
think
rebuilt
Kuroki-
him after
Yeah,
his
they
fight
repaired him. Oh, no, wait, he did die for Jin. That's right.
for
Never mind.
Jin, yeah, the first time.
But yeah, no, Greece would like to have a word with you.
Which Grease?
Build, you said they haven't been hesitant to kill off the tertiary, but Greece fucking died at the end.
Yeah, it's also Otoya.
That's
right.
fair too.
That's
He died too.
right. He's kind of got like this Sean Bean counter, where it's like, well, it's like a 50-50 chance he's gonna end up dead. Right.
So far, he has a 100% death rate.
I don't know, man. He might have lived in Grand Caesar. I haven't gone back and
But-
seen if they killed the little kid.
But here's the thing with that, with
Oh, he was in Sailor
With
Moon
Grease.
too, or something. Shit.
But here's the thing with Grease on that. That just allows him to come back again and look even younger. That's his
Yeah, it's
immortality process. He has to die in the
What is
season
it?
at least once.
He's a fun guy, man. He's the real life version.
What is it
He's a
with
lich.
riders and de-aging?
I don't know. I think it's just like the freaking level of like makeup and skincare has gotten so good. People literally de-age. Also, to be fair, like in Kiva, he was supposed to look like he's from the 80s. So like even God, Yuri, right? Like Yuri is super young, but she looks like a freaking full-grown adult, right? Because she was in the goddamn live-action Sailor Moon, that like musical that just came out a couple of years ago, right? Like Megumi is older than freaking Yuri is in Kiva.
The frickin' Ryuki writers, not all of them, but like
Okay.
quite a few of them aged really gracefully. Like they don't look young. They just look
But-
really fucking good for their age. Like
And-
Shinji
I
and
mean-
Ren's actors.
Right. I was gonna say like the Fies actors are like the only other ones. Like, yeah, I guess it's just if you're in freaking goddamn Inoue shows, he just literally picks out the people who aren't human because they stop
Kids-
aging.
Kenzaki in Zio, like 15 years later, hasn't aged a day.
Yeah, I mean, like, so.
I mean, I met him in person.
Well,
so.
no. That's even more insane because he
Or no, I
freaking
met
got
Tsubaki.
like he got messed up. Like he was in the hospital for a bit because he got
Yeah,
attacked.
and he still
doesn't look. Yeah. I know, right? Like when you see him in his YouTube channels, I'm like, this is like a year after Blade, bro. How is like 16 years blown by?
And that's not just stage makeup. Like I met Kenzaki's actor in person, and he has a really soft, kind energy, and yeah, he's just really good looking. I look at him and I see somebody who, you know, I look up to him and they say, you know, maybe in a few years I could still look that good. You know, it's hopeful.
Yeah, I was gonna say the person who really doesn't fucking age is Shinji's like friend who was his boss, like his senpai who used to run like
right,
his
the
music.
editor-in-chief.
Yeah, the editor-in-chief, right?
exactly
Dude,
the same.
he looks the same, right? Like he's in Shin Godzilla, and he barely looks like he's aged. Like he looks probably the best out of like anybody I've seen. Out of writer who's been like that long, like even better than Otoya, which is insane because you know Otoya ages backwards, right? so that's crazy. Also I saw something really interesting, which is Sento and Evolt are in like Japanese 24. So that's freaking.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
They look so cool, man. Even though Sento looks way crazier. I mean, not like way crazier, but like if you like, oh right, here's like Evolt's actor, and then, well, not Evolt, like Stark's actor, because like Evolt barely was out soon. But and then you see Sento, and like Sento's kind of got like a mad scientist vibe almost a little bit going on, but like Evolt looks so proper, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. He's gonna pull something.
I gotta see that. I gotta see like just the episodes within it, just because like I didn't even the Japanese 24, and that sounds like it kind of slaps.
Yeah, I think we have a link in the Discord somewhere.
So going back to 01, going back to the fight a bit, I do have to say it. We were talking last week about how the arena is set when Hirobi activates his Bankai, but then the fight plays out and it actually looks like that scene from Bleach.
I know, like everyone I watched it with was commenting on that.
the scene where Ichigo's learning his Bankai.
It looks
it's
like,
all I could see.
With a little bit of the fight against Byakuya where he holds out his hand and a sword pops into it.
Yeah. I feel like there's like a lot of Bleach references, possibly just because they ended up getting Aizen's voice actor for the arc.
Oh damn!
Oh shit,
nice.
that's Aizen?
Yeah.
That's
and it's
freaking
because he's
sick.
always saying it's all according to my plan.
Yeah,
just
that's why I'm like,
Aizen
oh
does.
no, it's Aizening it up to the max.
I watched Bleach in high school. I don't remember what anyone sounds like.
I mean, to be fair, live action just came out like a year ago or something. So, you know, I'm pretty sure Toei is into that shit at this point too.
Well, and given the fact that Toei's been dropping references to people playing different parts in Kira Major, it makes sense that they would have done it here too. So yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
So I started watching Ghost, and I finally met Kanon-chan, Spectre's little sister.
Oh yeah.
And then Vashi was like, yeah, she grew up well to a Pink Ranger, didn't she?
Oh man.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I like the cast of Ghost.
Oh, Ghost is a good cast.
I just think Ghost the show is a little mid. So I like seeing the actors show up in different shows.
Right, like Ghost. It's sort of the same thing with Gaim. Like Gaim has an amazing cast. It's just the story let them down. Same thing with Ghost. Like they have a really solid cast. Okay, like the problem is like the comedy is so over the top. It's kind of hard for the actors to pull it off, right? It's sort of like
I think they do a pretty good job at that.
No,
Actually.
no, no. Yeah, that's true.
It's
I mean, like
one
they
of my
grow into it,
least big
but
complaints.
no, I mean it's sort of like Cyborg from Build, where it's like they gave him like comedic stuff later on, and it's like he's clearly struggling with it because like that's not the style of acting he does, right? So Ghost kind of has that.
We can do a podcast on Ghost another time.
Yes, it's true.
Oh boy, I kind of want to join that if we do, because I kind of regret my last podcast on Ghost, to be honest, and I want to take back some things I said.
Okay, so the funniest thing, I think the first thing I ever saw of you is the Ghost podcast.
So I don't think I did a bad job producing
No.
it. I just think that I was worse at media analysis back then.
Yeah, I think we all were, but like, yeah, it's, nice round circle. Anyway, we were like, way the fuck off.
So we're still not even 5 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, so unlike the episode, which moves at an amazingly good pace and like pretty much has its shit together halfway through, this podcast does not.
So, Team Thouser is attempting to restore Jin. They don't have a body for him, but if they can get him online, they can at least try to get him to communicate with Hirobi to try and stop the fighting. Instead, Jin's AI, once it's programmed together, takes off on its own to go and talk to As, telling her, like, hey, this isn't the arc's conclusion. You have no heart, so you can't predict this, but this is Aruto's conclusion.
Translation, you done fucked up.
Aruto isn't fighting to win. He's fighting to understand.
Well, sort of. He's definitely not fighting to win by the end of it. But it's like, yeah, maybe he is trying to reach a different goal.
He's trying to get refined an understanding with Hirobi.
Right,
that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
they both got their own. They both have goals that they could find common ground on, but their methods, they don't understand each other's methods. They don't understand what each other have been through. So that kind of makes sense to say about them.
For me, in the end of it, it came down to Aruto basically looking at Hirobi and going, all right, you got your revenge. Now what did that get you?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it.
It basically came down to, I look at it as your violent My Little Pony episode of friendship is magic and I'm gonna beat your ass until you understand it.
Well, I mean...
Oh, and I think that was actually an episode.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, isn't that like the Starlight, like, freaking two-parter? Where, like, the time loop...
Starlight, yes!
Right? Like, the time loop and she wins, and then Twilight's like, okay, great, you won. The fucking planet's toast. Enjoy.
This literally happened in My Little Pony. Oh my god.
At long last, I'm finally on a brony podcast.
No, you're not. Well, a partial one. I'm not one. I just happen to know friendship is magic.
Man, I haven't watched, like...
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. The one time Vashi makes a stupid, offhanded remark to Milo Pony, it's actually true.
and
true.
To be fair, the entire comment I said was true. Because I called it the violent My Little Pony episode. Which, you pointed out, literally exists.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're all... The finales and premieres are fucking violent. Well, the most violent one... Okay, the most violent one I think I've seen was the Tyrk one, because that's just a DBZ fight.
No. It's when Sombra blows the fuck up.
The ending.
The one I was gonna bring
the
up.
ending.
Like, they actually blew him into bits, and you see his bits, like, fly out of the explosion.
You see his horn fly at the camera.
Right.
And then his horn becomes like a plot point later.
It sure does. Man, actually, I haven't seen the last couple seasons, so I don't know if anything more crazy happens. But yeah, you're right. Sombra exploding is probably pretty violent.
I saw the first half of the last season. I just never got around to finishing it. Some crazy stuff does happen towards the end, but
Sense.
that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
Well, I mean,
Like
looping back. So the thing is, like, as I was saying, like, Fu's actor said, like, something that's never happened in Rider happens, and it's like, yeah, it's true. It's the first time you convince your villain to be a fucking Kamen Rider. Like, normally this happens with, like, oh, you're a villainous writer, like, somewhere in their arc, but not at the end. Like, you don't convince the final villain to be like, alright, drop your shit, become a writer.
That's
Like-
true, actually.
We get it with like the tertiary writers, like in Drive. We got it with Chase. And the same thing we got it with Agito. With
Agito
another,
for sure.
With another Agito.
We have Kuroto,
those were in the
too,
middle
who
of the
does
series.
good and bad
Right.
things.
Yes.
Like, but that's where we get it. We don't get the no. Your plan is stupid. You're an idiot. Why are you being evil?
Well, it's more like, I mean, sort of, but it's more like now you understand our pain, and it's
Right.
like writers overcome that, and aren't you a writer? So it's like realize your potential to be good, or to be
Like,
better
and-
than this. And it's
and
like
I
literally
feel-
turning your villain. It's like if Black went to Shadow Moon and was like, "Hey, become a writer," right? Whereas, I mean, like, that's not really true
God,
because
I
Shadow
want
Moon's
that,
barely
man.
in that show until the end.
Like this is, I feel, one of the few shows that could have truly pulled this off, given the fact that this is a setup of AI versus natural life. So doing it would make sense that the artificial life wouldn't understand these concepts. Growing to understand them would be a conflict of them trying, and then being able to be convinced through action and the power of friendship and love and heart and all that to draw the conclusion that no, it makes no sense of why I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, it's mostly like, oh shit, realizing that, well, I'm angry at you, but it's like, no, I lost somebody, and it's like, oh, you lost somebody, and you lost them because of me, so it's like, it's literally like, we are the same, bro. Like, you can finally realize, like, how complicated the situation is, right? You're just beyond just base logic now. And so it's like, it's this really complicated thing, but it's like, it was done so damn well. And again, this is fucking amazing because this happened like halfway through the damn episode. And I looked down and I'm like, how much time is there? I was like, fucking like half of this? Like, whoever wrote this is a fucking genius. Like, it's probably one of the best like final episodes I've ever seen. Because usually they're pretty rushed, but this one took its time.
And given the fact that this writer wrote X8 and we all understand the problems that the end of X8 had, and yes, I'm including the need to have 4 different movies to explain the ending of the show.
I mean, to be fair, this has one movie to explain the ending of the show. So, like, it
that movie was supposed to happen like 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen back in July.
Right, I think they're gonna just rewrite it to be the ending of the show at this point.
Yeah, but it wasn't supposed to be the ending.
It wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, that's true.
It was supposed to be like pre-final arc.
Yeah, Eden wasn't supposed to have anything to do with this version of the arc.
Yeah, that does make sense because, like, everything else was kind of tied together, so it's like, that's weird. Also, it, like, restoring Jin kind of does this interesting thing where it's like, oh, is Jin just, like, pure AI now? And then he goes to Az, and I'm like, oh shit, we did a reversal where it's like, oh, here's the assistant character, except now they've switched, like, Izu's evil and Jin's become the good guy. And that's how we're gonna end it. And it's like, that would have been interesting too, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's like everybody wants a happy ending, so we have to tie everything together super nicely, and it's like, well, we'll get to that Izu stuff.
yeah, we're gonna get to that one.
Yeah,
that's depressing and amazing all at the same time.
So
yeah,
we
but
get
like,
the
Anybody else thoughts on like? Sorry. Oh, unless you're gonna talk more about this conclusion, then go ahead.
Oh yeah, because we haven't gone over everything yet. We get the reveal of what happened when Naruto went into satellite there in his belt and talked to his robot dad, who gave him a speech about the strength of the heart.
Dude, was that the most like, oh, I'm older, like veteran writer to newer writer speech ever?
Yeah,
Right?
pretty much.
Like I'm like, oh look, this is the Showa era giving you a speech, Reiwa era kid.
Yeah,
Right.
that was
It's
100%.
kind of metatextual that way.
That was 100% of, hey, this is what it truly means to be a common writer.
Right. It's so much like that. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of Spider-Verse when they're like all explaining like, oh, we've all lost someone, but you kind of have to just. Well, Aruto explaining to Hirobi was kind of a little bit like that, but then like his dad also explaining is like that's just part of the package. You just gotta learn to grow and accept that and try to make the world a better place. So it's like that's
kind of the show is like saying like, so this is how Reiwa is going to define Kamen. We're gonna take some of Showa, and we're gonna take some of Heisei, and we're gonna go in our own direction with those themes. We're not gonna be either, but we're not going to ignore them. It kind of seemed like that's what 01 has been saying, because the whole thing constantly goes back to what is being a common writer, and then at the end they basically come out and tell us times what 01 thinks that means as a
Like I feel it's a way for them to create something new, which they clearly had success with this season, but still pay tribute and homage to what started it all. Because without without Show and without Heisei, it doesn't exist. The show would be nowhere if the Showa writer didn't work out, or if the Heisei writer didn't work out. So
it's like with Aruto's dad being Rocking Hopper too, kind of is even more of a Showa era homage.
Right, he's Ichigata, he's basically a Rider 1 stand-in.
Yeah, pretty much. Plus, like, Aruto's, like, henshin at the end, where he's basically just doing the Kuga henshin. I was like, oh, that's a nice throwback to, like, Heisei.
Apparently, if you listen to the Arc henshin, I think for Arc... I can't remember if it's for Arc 0 or Arc 1. I think it's Arc 1. You listen closely, you could actually hear Kuga's henshin as part of the sound design. They just straight up put that sound in there, and you can hear it faintly.
That's cool. I mean, like, they're throwing so many freaking references and, like, homages. Well, not references, but homages in this. It's insane. Also, like, fucking everybody's in character this episode, like, absolutely. Like, holy shit. The freaking vice president continues to be a, like, great character out of nowhere.
Why do I want him to become a writer?
No.
I just want that for some reason.
He'd become the writer. He would become a writer in the same vein that the director of the department in Drive became a writer.
Yeah, Kamen Rider Jr. Now, can you imagine him just being like, "You Huma Gears that are protesting, you have to listen to me." Henshin!
No, fuck that. Yeah, no. I mean, honestly, I kind of like... Okay, here's the other thing. It's one of those good things is this happened in 2020, so they get like a dose of reality. It's like, yeah, people are pissed off at protests. Like, don't just hit them. That is not the solution, people.
Yeah,
right?
No,
so like,
no, see, he wouldn't be a writer who fights them. He would be a writer who stands in between them. He would stand in between the two sides. Doesn't hit anyone. Protects everyone.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, like, honestly, I think he does better outside of Suit.
No, you're right. I'm just being Lord.
Yeah.
And so, the fight between Aruto and Hirobi comes to a conclusion when they finally talk to each other. And Hirobi admits that he's angry that Aruto killed Jin. To which Aruto says, yes, who wouldn't be angry at losing their family. And then Hirobi realizes, you're right. Anyone would be. And you've lost family too, as he realizes what he did to Izu.
And then also what caused Jin to die, so therefore he is at fault. Like,
well,
it makes sense, you know? Like, Humagears, they evolve, they learn by experiencing things. So Aruto had to force Hirobi to experience these feelings in context with his own, and it's the whole thing of how humans learn from humans. It was very... It made sense, and it was a very cathartic ending for Hirobi's arc. I mean, it doesn't quite end there, but he comes to like an emotional resolution. Basically.
And so we come to the true reason why Hirobi declared war on humans. Because existence is pain, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And now he's mad at his creators.
Is that what the TVN subs say? Like I was watching...
That's not what it said, but that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, that's the inference from it.
Oh, okay. So like, I was watching a different subset, and it's slightly different, where they're pretty much just like, it's like, he basically can't handle the emotions because like it's the first time he's like fully feeling them.
Yeah, existence is pain.
Right. Yeah, kind of. But
I mean, he's like, the Humagears are all kind of immature in a way because they're still like learning how to handle their emotions, so it kind of works.
Yeah, no, TV Neon was also going to like how he can't handle his emotions because he doesn't understand them. I'm the one saying existence is pain.
Fair enough.
Because it sounds edgy.
That's true.
No, it sounds correct. Life sucks and then you die, get over it.
Oh, fuck that. Yeah, I mean, it does, but like...
philosophy. We got some particular philosophies being expressed here. Boy.
Look, I was gonna say life sucks, but you don't have to get over it. You better fix it. So, considering we're a writer podcast, I think that's a better mentality here.
I'm just fucking vibing, y'all. I don't know what it is about all this negative shit. I mean, like, I fucking look at the world and all the things going wrong in it, but you know what? I've got my own little slice of peace right here. I'm fine with that.
Right, but I mean, like, tying back into this nonsense, like, Hirobi literally lost everything. Plus, Hirobi is one of the few Humagears who would realize, like, oh shit, you've lost family, right? Because, guess what? He was active in Daybreak Town. Which means he knows that he killed Aruto's robot dad.
He's the one who caused Daybreak Town.
Yeah, and Izu. So he knows, actually, he's met both of the people that Aruto's lost.
Because he finally understands. Aruto's malice came from him killing Izu. And he has that same malice from when Aruto killed Jin. And finally, they understand each other.
You know, the way with that, like, the way that they kind of use machine learning as a metaphor, it kind of seems like they're saying, whenever you hurt somebody, you are imprinting that same pain onto somebody. But when you heal somebody and help someone, you're imprinting kindness onto them. And it's all part of the same resonance. Or maybe that's just...
I mean, that's an interesting read. It's possible. Like, I could see it. I wasn't particularly going with that, but yeah, it's very viable. The one thing I was going to point out, I mean, like, I guess everybody saw that, but like, it's got nothing to do with this deep philosophical stuff. Is like, I really like how they shot it when it's like when they're first fighting, and they're really just going at each other, and then it just cuts to what they see, and it's kind of just a gray nebulous world, and they're just like not even looking at each other. But like, okay, they are actually kind of like they're looking over their shoulder, so like they could turn and talk, but they're not.
Yeah, they're like blocking each other from having that conversation.
I was like, oh man,
that's... And you can like literally see it in their body language.
Right, exactly. I'm like, that is freaking beautifully done. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's like that is kind of a genius take. Because, like, normally you'd be like, oh, you cut to it and then you just show them in the action thing. But, like, we only get to see that when it cuts to them and it's like they're not in writer form. They're just in, like, human form in place of the writer. But, like, in the other dimension, it's just sort of, like, showing what's their mental state is like. So it's, like, multiple layers.
If they're doing... Even if it's, like, kind of simple, it's, like, I appreciate them not just doing the most basic thing that they could. I appreciate them being, like, slightly artistic about this.
Right, so maybe like the 2 days, 2 episodes at least gave them a little time to plan some stuff. And maybe that's why it's a little more artsy, which, you know, hey, I'm good with. It's the final episode, at least make it memorable.
I think they wanted to impress people. I thought they were like, look, we're ending our first Heisei show. Remember how hard they went in the first episode with just doing so much extra CG and putting so much extra into the presentation compared to other compared to like a lot of the other episodes. A lot of the times where they're introducing new things for the new Reiwa Kamen Rider, like who the new writers are going to be and stuff, they're like, let's go big. And then they went really big for how they presented the ending too.
Yeah, I mean, considering it seems decently popular, like, fuck, I've heard, like, actual Japanese YouTubers talk about it, so I'm like, that's impressive, because, like, again, you have to remember Japan...
YouTubers talk about it.
Well, the thing is, like, you have to remember Japan is not a super geek-heavy culture, like, most of the world has kind of become, where it's, like, it's more acceptable to be geeky, whereas Japan's still a little more backwards. I mean, like, you did get that, like, second Sentai parody where it's, like, just talking about that thing of, like, you know, being into a fandom and being an adult type thing, right? But again, usually you don't hear Japanese people generally being like, oh, right, I like this essentially kids show, right? And
to be fair, like, I don't know which Japanese YouTubers you've heard, but, like, VTubers, they kind of appeal to the same demographic as tokusatsu and anime.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
I would also say, like, if you're watching PDR, that guy's a fucking nerd, dude.
Well, I was gonna say, like, the first, like, I heard, like, Love Chan get, like, super hyped on it, and then, like, I guess, like, a lot of other VTubers started getting, or at least checking it out, because, like, you know, fucking I-Chan, right? Like, 2.5 million.
Yeah, I think Aloe was into it, and someone else. I don't know the name.
I did just post it. Like, freaking, Hana Machia just did, like, a pretty much, like, the same thing we're doing, which is, like, discussing 01, and, like, I think it's her first show. And I mean, technically she's not Japanese, she's in Indonesia, or maybe she is Japanese, or at least she can speak Japanese and English in Indonesia.
Toku is pretty fucking big in Indonesia, though.
Yeah, it's fucking huge.
They actually had the Geo movies in a theater in a mall that my friend went to. Like, my friend from Indonesia was like, hey, I just got back from watching the Geo movie in theaters at this mall. I took a picture with this cosplayer. See? I'm like, hey, it's...
That is cool. I mean, to be fair, like, it's kind of like Indonesia is sort of like Brazil, where it's like tokusatsu is like fucking huge there. Right? So it's like...
Yeah, it seems like it.
So it's cool. I mean, man, I honestly wish I could speak the other languages, like Portuguese and stuff, because that would be so much cooler to see, like, other, you know, like, people's takes on it instead of just the standard Western fan, which is essentially the anime take, which is like 50% shitty hot takes, 50% actual worthwhile.
50% is generous.
Wow.
I mean, okay, yeah, you're right. I am being pretty...
No, honestly, like, I fucking unfollowed, like, half the Toku fandom because
oh, yeah, me
I just
too.
don't fucking care about their opinions.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it's kind of annoying because, like, we're podcasting, but, like, let's be real. Like, most of the takes people have are so basic, and it's like, oh, this isn't good. I'm like, all right. Like, one, you probably haven't seen a lot of Rider, and two, even if you had, like, you probably don't sit and discuss it, like, episode by episode like we do. So
okay, like here's the thing.
so
I'm
like we
I'm not
kind.
saying our opinions.
No,
are
it's
any
not
more
better. It's just
worthwhile.
like at least we have to
It's
sit and
just-
think about them a lot
No,
more.
our opinions are also trash.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
recently learned
Yeah, super
to
trash.
not take someone else's opinion as fact when they say how they feel about a Togu series.
Right, especially in
Like-
text because
But
it's
that's
so
why I
hard to
don't
tell
care about
tones.
Like after watching Ninja, I realized like, yes, this series started off absolutely horrible for the first like 10 episodes, but then it got better.
Yeah, I'll actually defend a ninja too.
Like I thought it was going to be a trash fire start to finish, and I was disappointed. It got good.
Yeah.
The only thing that I will really justify the fact that I come out on this podcast and say my opinions for is I find the experience of watching a podcast just kind of be like the experience of hanging out with friends. Podcasts are there to keep people company, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and that's what I do it for.
Like I could do this with or without the actual podcast.
Right, pretty much. Right at this point.
We have technically done this without the podcast, before the podcast.
Yeah, we used to.
But I mean, like, for people that don't have people to voice chat with, they can listen to this podcast and be like, hey, these people like the things I like. That makes me feel comfy.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much why I started, because I'm like, hey, I'm into this writer shit. I want to fucking talk to other people who are into this writer thing too. And it's like, we fucking barely had a goddamn community, and we still barely have
And
a
I like
fucking...
talking to other people about writer and hearing their opinions that way. It's just when everyone is fishing for that hot take,
Oh,
and
God,
everyone's
yeah.
like trying to brand themselves with like I've got the Kamen Rider takes to end all Kamen Rider takes. I'm like, no, you fucking don't.
Yeah,
More
I mean,
boring to read your tweets.
right. Honestly, like, I stopped going to Twitter because I'm like, I'm losing massive amounts of respect for you people the more I read your tweets. And so it's like, hey, I used to think you actually had good takes. Watching
no,
just your YouTube shit, and like I'm reading your Twitter, and I'm like,
baffling
no.
when I read someone's opinion online, and it is literally the antithesis to my opinion about that subject. And it's like, wow.
Right,
I
like,
didn't think I could disagree so hard with someone on a TV show.
Yeah.
So you basically just described the TV Nihon forums.
well, I mean, it's not that bad, but it's like,
I was actually
then
talking about
again, all the
Reddit.
TVD Hub forums are the worst. Oh no, what's just worse, TVD Hub forums or Reddit? That's
I think
Reddit.
Reddit.
hard to guess.
Reddit's-
Yeah,
Reddit.
Reddit is more
Like,
racist and
Reddit-
sexist about
Reddit
it. So
has
Reddit's
its good-
probably a little bit worse.
Reddit has its good points, but like if you find like the bad part of Reddit, like boy does it get bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. The thing that set me off today is like, I was reading like a comment and people are like, oh, the show is so bad. Yes, this ending of this show. And it's like, oh, it put me off from watching the rest of Reva. I'm like, okay, stop, buddy. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Every
Like,
show is gonna be different.
no.
You can't
I
just
know.
say
I'm like,
you're
at this
watching every
point, the
show.
only conclusion is you have not seen enough writer to know what the hell bad writer endings look like. Right? You can be like, alright, this is not satisfying. This didn't go in the way I wanted. I'm like, fair enough. I can see that. Or this dragged out a little bit. Sure. You know, I can see those takes. But I'm like visibly pissed off at an ending or shit like that. Like, right? Like watching Kiva and then going to Decade and Decade's shitting all over Kiva is like, okay, fuck this, I'm done. Or like going to Gaim and everybody being like, oh, this is the most amazing thing ever. I'm like, what the fuck are you people on? Right? It's
Yeah,
like,
no, if they want to see a bad Rider ending, they should go watch Kabuto.
oh Jesus! Holy
Decade,
fuck!
which just doesn't
Kabuto's
even
ending is
have an
so
ending.
bad. It's literally like everything builds up to the second last arc, and it's perfect. And then the final arc of Kabuto happens, and it's like, fuck that. We're going back to the beginning of this show.
Hey, we made our main character too strong, and we can't come up with a villain strong enough to fight him. What do? Just have a new main villain every other episode.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say like
Oh wow.
we made our.
I haven't seen the ending of
Yeah,
Kabuto.
No. The worst part about that also is like, hey, we made like a super fucking Gary Sue character as our main character, and fucking everybody kind of hates him, and then we spend the rest of the show kind of making him likable. And then, like, second last arc, he's actually a decent human being, and then the last arc, like, fuck it, no, back to the beginning.
So here's what happens, because I am exaggerating a bit, but they introduce
No,
a
it's
boss character.
trash.
Yeah, it is trash, but what I said about a new main villain every other episode, they introduce a boss character that's like, all right, this guy, everything about him is presented as like, okay, this is the new main villain. And then Kabuto beats him, and then because the worms just mimic people, worms just keep mimicking that same guy, so he keeps coming back, to the point where Kabuto just wipes 7 of him in one blow.
Yeah, it's so annoying. I mean, like, the worst thing, too, is, like, him and Gatak finally, like, because when Gatak starts out, like, most of, you know how, like, build most of the show, kind of, like, the background plot is, like, Banjo learning to be a writer?
Yeah.
Right? For Kabuto, it's Gatak doing that, where it's like he kind of really wants to be Kabuto, and then he's kind of a joke, and then he gets Gatak, and he's not super good at it, but he's getting there, and he's doing his own thing. And then by, like, the second last arc, like, he's on par with Kabuto, and the final arc happens, and it's like, yeah, fuck that. Fuck working with anybody else. Fuck you. I don't need your opinion. I'm gonna save the world my way. It's like, why are you doing this? I'm not going to explain any of my actions. I'm going to be a dick to everyone. And I'll save the world because my name's in the title.
At one point, Kabuto becomes the antagonist of the show. Not because he's in the wrong or anything, but because he's in the right but refuses to explain to anyone why he's doing it.
And it's not even that it's like, oh, I've got no time. I'm like, first, speed powers, 2.
Like, no,
he just refuses.
Take a minute to tell people, like, hey, this thing you guys think is good is actually bad. But instead, he just goes around destroying it with no explanation.
Right? Like, here's the thing. Like, imagine... Okay, like, you don't understand how bad this is. Like, by the end of Kabuto, everybody's like, oh shit, alien invasion. The worms can mimic anyone or kill anyone, right? Like, fuck, we're screwed. Can't trust anyone. It's basically like Star Trek with the changelings. Right? Right. Then imagine it's like, hey, we had this thing to save people, or like make them well aware, or like warn them off, right? So imagine like the vaccine for like a virus like this pandemic, and then like Kabuto shows up, he knows it's wrong, it's fucking people up, and it's not the solution, explains none of this, goes around to everyone and just blows their supplies up.
But enough shitting on Kabuto.
Right, like that ending is so bad.
Before we do, I have one question for you, Rye.
Okay.
Why am I watching that show again?
For the experience.
It's actually pretty good.
Believe it.
Like, everything up till the second last arc is great. The last arc is trash.
Like, Kabuto definitely starts off good. But you have to see the trash fire it becomes to believe that it's real.
Right? Like, here's the thing. I'll tell you this. Like, if you go to the second last arc, and it's like, okay, good enough ending, I can stop here, just stop there. Right? It's like, sort of like Hibiki, where it's like, alright, you watch half of the show.
Like a coward take to me.
Fuck off.
You start a show, you fucking finish it.
Alright,
I still pretend that your show isn't. You just can't pretend that your show doesn't have a shitty ending.
I don't give a shit. All right, like I'm also, still stuck on like BoJack season 6, like episode 6, because it's a happy ending, and I'm like, you know what? This show will probably ruin this, so I am stopping halfway through this damn season.
Okay, like the thing with I think the thing with not watching part of a show is you're just saying, oh, fuck your ability to come up with your own opinion. Just take mine for granted. Don't even try to come up with your own.
I don't know. I think it's more like harm reduction. It's like, this is not going to make me any happier. I am not going to waste my time to just get a shitty ending. Especially because I've sat through too much crap at this point where I'm like, it's not worth it.
Okay, to be fair, certain shows do try to actually send the viewer through like an emotional ringer. So I can get that with like BoJack, but if you're just saying like a fucking writer show is like, oh yeah, just only watch half of it, just watch the good parts. It's like you're not really watching it. No, I mean, up with your own opinion.
The problem is like Hibiki. What happens? Have you seen Hibiki?
I know the deal with Hibiki.
Yeah.
So
the thing with Hibiki is like it's.
About it, but
the second half's not
I'm
bad.
gonna watch the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I saw like most of it, but the point is like the second half is such a tonal shift, it just becomes a different show. So it's like, well,
Yeah, but I mean, like, I want to see how I feel about that personally. I'm not just gonna take everyone saying that it's bad.
well, no, the thing is like I watched.
Someone else told me it's bad, so.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But I was just gonna say more like I watched most of the second half of Hibiki, and I'm like 40-ish episodes here now, and I'm like, this is really not shaping up how I want. Like, you've literally taken out any of the characters I like. I'm like, fuck it, it's not worth it. And
Well,
so
yeah,
like
if you decide it's not worth it while you're watching it, that's kind of different.
Oh, that's fair. Well, that's why I said
far
it's like
more
if you
valid.
get to the final arc and you're like, all right, this final arc's not worth my time, then yeah, skip it. But yeah, I agree. Like
well,
if
okay,
somebody
fair
says like
enough.
the show is bad and then you watch it and it's like, well, it's not terrible. Like as you're saying with Ninja, I'm okay with
And
that.
It's like you're saying with
Wizard was better than I was led to believe.
Oh jeez,
but-
the hate for Wizard is insane. Like it's
But
mediocre,
I get where
people.
they're coming from. The middle section of Wizard was not my favorite.
Oh god, it's fucking trash.
It's just that, like, I'm so used to hearing all, like, how we were talking about all these bad takes earlier. Like, I'm so used to people just saying, "Oh yeah, just don't even watch Ghost," and I'm like,
So
I
here's
feel bad that I was contributing to that culture at some point in my life,
same.
because it's like, what if somebody sees something that's interesting and appealing looking to them, and then you just go, "Oh no, your opinion for being interested in that is just wrong."
Well, I'm never
You
gonna
have
say
some
that.
bad
I'm gonna.
taste.
I always
So-
say watch whatever you want, but I'm like, don't put yourself through it thinking it'll get better, because like, then you kind of get stuck in the like, okay, to be fair, this is less of a problem once the show is done because you can just speed through it, right? But if a show is airing and you have to sit through it week by week, it becomes much more of a pain in the ass. And then I'm like, all right, you want to drop it, it's fine.
my opinion is that like even if you think it's gonna be bad, watch it for the experience. But if your time is limited, you're not gonna miss anything by skipping it.
Right. Like,
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I put it when I was asked, for recommendations and my thoughts on particular shows, i.e., Ninja and Ghost. It wasn't necessarily that, oh my god, these are unwatchable, but there's portions of them that are bad enough to where if you have something better to watch and more, relevant to your time, like a series that you started that you thought was really good and didn't finish, go watch that and then come back to this. It's like you could put this one off. Not saying don't watch it, just watch it when it's a priority for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
rather
I know
than-
people that got into Rider through Ghost and got into Sentai through Ninja, and it's like it's.
To be fair, it's their first one.
Of Ghost and
Like,
but exactly, like if they listened to people and didn't watch them, then they would have never gotten into Sentai or Kamen Rider, and that would suck. That would suck if they didn't get into it.
Like, we all understand what a dumpster fire Decade was.
right, that's what I was gonna say. I'm
For
like,
the
Vashi,
reasons it was dumpster fires. That's the series that I started. It's the show that I started watching. As the first Rider I watched, and it got me into seeing, well, here's all this hate because of these couple of episodes which involve this series. I'm gonna go watch this series, see why they're all pissed off, and then it was, I get why they're pissed off. You're stupid, but I get why you're pissed off.
That's actually the reason why I see a lot of people recommend Decade to newcomers
Oh,
as
God.
a first Rider series. It's like, watch Decade first, and if one of those other writers interests you, go look up their series.
See,
That's actually what I did.
that's
It was,
honestly
Decade was
what-
my second Rider series. Actually, my third. But yeah.
Yeah, so the problem is like that's what Decade should have been, but the way the Decade episodes are written, they're so fucking meta. Right? Like you have to know the series it's referencing and what the meta things it's trying to comment on to understand what the fuck these episodes are. I'm like they're like
I think
like-
I got it just fine.
no, I know, but
I
like
could read into it.
right, but like you're not enjoying it like it's not Go Sazer, right? No, not Go
I feel
Caesar.
like you could
The
just go
pirate
back
one.
and watch
Go-
Decade.
Gokaiger.
Like, you
Gokaiger.
just-
Right. Well, whereas Gokaiger is like a celebration of the shows that it's referencing, whereas Decade is more like, yeah, if you watch this thing, you might understand, but like, here's the thing. Like, I think, like, okay, here's the thing. Like, Zio, like, the good tribute episodes of Zio is what Decade should have been. Right?
I like Geo better overall than Decade, yeah. But, like, I'm just saying, like, I think with Decade, even if you watch it as your first series, the cool part is after you've seen more shows, you can go back and enjoy it almost like you're watching it from a completely new frame of mind. So you actually kind of get double the enjoyment.
I really like a lot of the individual aspects of Zio, but I can't bring myself to care for the whole package.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, the
I mean,
show
there's
as a
parts of
whole
it I
is
think are
such a
pretty
mix.
mid, but yeah.
And,
I
like,
still like it.
It's possible that I actually like more than half of Zio, but I still don't like Zio.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
Understandable.
Right,
for
like,
me, I like Zio in the aspect of, hey, look, I get to see these characters again. I could care less for the show overall beyond the Decade episodes. Like, while that series is Decade Season 2, I love the show. Other than that, I was there just to see the characters come back and what cockamamie fucking bullshit excuse they gave for why they came back.
yeah.
Blade episode, the Agito episode, the Kabuto episode.
Right.
The idiocy
I'm
of the
mostly okay with
Ryuki
the story
episode.
of
Oh,
Geo.
God, fuck
I
the
think it's-
Ryuki episode.
I like the Ryuki episode. Kiss my ass.
The Ryuki episode is a setup to the special, which I'm like, okay, it's cool you got these actors back, but I'm like, god damn, this is not a good ending to these characters. Like, it's such a
I actually
bad
didn't
ending.
finish the special yet, but I liked the
Like,
tribute
the
episodes.
special has, like, really cool fucking effects, or, like, it's got, like, great cinematography, and it's, like, really cool that these actors are back, but, like, the plot is fucking trash.
I saw the first episode of it. I still gotta finish it. Like I'm like the biggest Ryuki.
Oh.
Oh, we lost you. We lost Platinum.
Alright. Well, I mean, he's probably still connected because his thing is there. Maybe he'll...
His phone has been like juddering, like his frame will freeze and then it'll fast forward to catch up, and so like his mouth will move really fast and not like, sync up for a second. I've been noticing that happen for like the past hour.
Oh, damn.
It's like watching a Japanese movie in English.
I was gonna say it's like, oh shit, what the hell,
Attila!
no, what's that, fighting game? What's the predicting? No, not delay base, what's the other one?
Describe it? I don't know.
No, what's the netcode? Not delay base, the other one that everybody goes crazy for.
Oh, rollback?
Rollback, yes, it's like rollback in live action. Oh, it's
Roll
great.
back in real life.
Yep.
Hey, so I'm just gonna turn my microphone and camera off for a bit, and then turn my mic back on when I want to chime in. Because
Sure.
I'm fucking hungry, and I don't want to turn this into a mukbang.
Fair enough. Yeah, we're like way off topic anyway.
Anyways, alright, so back to Zio. So
0-1.
0-1, jeez. Wow, okay.
Yep.
Aruto and Hirobi now have reached an understanding. And Aruto had used Theia's ability one more time to recreate his 0-1 driver, which he is now putting on with a new progress key for the final henshin. Authorize, progrise, initialize, realizing Hopper. A rider kick to the sky turns to take off toward a dream.
Oh man, I can't believe they freaking put all the realize and all that stuff just to lead up to
Buy now
this.
from Premium Bandai.
Oh my god, it's true. It's gonna be a P Bandai for sure. Actually, no, it's a main rider, so it might not be.
Now they're probably gonna put it in the Memorial Gashot set, or not Gashot. Fuck. The Memorial Progress Key set.
Yep, maybe. Anyway, what did you guys think of this coming out? I mean, honestly, it was led in with the flashback. so it wasn't as insane, but like it's interesting to see him go back to basic form to finish, right? I mean, it's a new version of basic form. Like, is anything actually different besides?
I don't think so, but I haven't done a compare and contrast.
Yeah.
I didn't see much that was different.
Right.
It looks the same at it just watching the episode.
I wish they would change the eye color or something, so it's like, oh, this is just like a different...
I wish they would have put the red scarf back on.
Oh, dude, that would have been so sick. But I guess they really wanted to go with like the classic finish, which I'm like, alright, it's fine. It's probably... Okay, a lot of stuff in the second half of this episode is just a setup for the movie. So, like, I can't hate it too much, but I'm like, yeah, this is one of those like Toei production nonsense that's coming in. Right?
It looked to me like they wanted to say throughout a lot of series that 01 is like cyclical. Like they always talk about the connection between the new generation and the old generation. And so by having 01 connect back to the beginning, by having a new version of a form, maybe that's a reference to that. I just can't think of any reason that they were doing that unless they were it's set up for some movie bullshit I don't understand yet because I haven't seen the movie, or if it's actually meant to have something to do with the presentation of the story.
Honestly, I just think it's a slightly new take on the fact that Ryder always does the let's revert to base form to beat the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like old school writer tropes in here where it's like, oh, you beat the bad guy, you go on a journey, or you take on the mantle, or the next, like the writers change the next generation carrying the message, or like, yeah, as you said, the base form finisher. Honestly,
I mean,
this second fight has
his development a little bit by showing that he can still take him in some permutation form.
Yeah, I mean, like, at least we don't have to argue. It's like, oh, why is his base form now as strong as his final form? It's like, well, it's made by the thing that made his final form, so it's like, duh, he's just using the same tech in just a different, like the suit just looks different. Because like he's got way more speed powers than he used to have, right? Because like base form, only the finishing rider kick has the speed shit going on, right? Like his base form doesn't have that. Like I wish it had kind of like the after image predicting thing too, because then it'd be like, oh, you've got like everything, and then it would have had like the fin funnels going, then it would have had like all the forms meld into just the base form. But I'm like, they probably didn't have time, plus he's trying super hard not to kill Hirobi fully, so I'm like, okay, even if he had that, he's probably holding back.
We get the final rider kick as Aruto leaps towards the sky. Hirobi could brace himself for impact, but chooses not to. He's accepted his fate. He no longer thinks that humanity are the ones that should be destroyed. Realizing impact, Aruto destroys the arc driver, and though he's beat up, Hirobi still lives. He asks Aruto why he didn't destroy him, and Aruto's answer is, there's no need for that anymore.
You could say Hirobi realized his mistakes.
God damn it. Yep.
It's corny, but it's true, okay?
Your pun was bad and you should feel bad.
You know what? I have pizza. I feel fine because I have pizza.
No regrets, huh?
Honestly, this particular rider kick actually is slightly more impactful than the show kind of leads, like the show gives into, because this is the first time in history that Mr. Kamen Rider has taken a rider kick.
Yeah,
that's
I was gonna
true.
say that too, actually. It's like he's passing the mantle down to like the new guy, being like, you know what? Okay, this is your time to shine.
My era is over.
And I will quote.
My era is over, yeah.
Well, before I'm told I am incorrect by Zero, yeah. I will quote Takaiwa Seiji. Thank you for watching 01's last episode. Were the tissues enough? LOL. The first rider kick I received, that felt good. Not in a weird way. It was a deep and difficult work. I feel like I've learned something new. Thank you, everyone.
I read that
From
tweet
the
too.
man
I thought it was-
himself.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like he wasn't the main in Ghost, so like he probably took a thing, but I'm like, I doubt he got like a rider kick finisher. He probably got like a slash or something.
Yeah, it's way more
I
meaningful
can
if it's a kick.
double check that right now.
No, it's
while
fine.
you
It's
guys
not
talk.
important. I'll take his word for it.
Yeah, didn't Takaiwa actually play a non-suited character in Ghost who was a bad guy, like that gyro dude or whatever?
I don't remember that. I know he's in the freaking Ryuki special.
I remember
He
there's
was
this-
in fact Ghost,
Ah, okay.
there's
My
this,
bad
like,
then.
There's like this
and he
buff-ass
was in
dude-
fact Gyro.
Yeah. I was pretty sure Gyro is that buff-ass dude.
I haven't gone to Gyro yet.
But yes, having
Honestly,
it's
he's cool.
Okay, did you get the saber? Yeah, basically saber.
but having this also be the passing the torch to the new Mr. Kamen Rider, or as I feel he should be appropriately named, Mr. Red, which is 90% of what he's done prior to this.
Holy shit, he's a red. Ah, nice.
Yeah, it's part of what he's had trouble with over the series, and he's admitted it, that he's so used to being over the top in terms of actions to get stuff across the way Sentai does, that he's not used to letting the motions and actions speak for themselves the way that Ryder does. That being able to the way Ryder shows emotion through like minimal effort through the suit acting is like it was something he very, very much had to learn, and with the help of the director riding his ass and Mr. Kamen Rider helping him and teaching him, he's learned, and he is thankful for everything that he has learned.
At least Naruto is more of a comedic, over-the-top character at the start, so he still got to kind of ease into the more serious suit acting that's more subtle, while still being able to be goofy at the.
Because it worked for him coming off of what he was primarily doing to this. So it was a good way to transition him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Yuya Nawada, sorry. His previous suit roles in Rider were Ganem,
Yeah.
Nice.
Cronus when Taiga used the suit,
What the Oh, okay.
and Gaze.
Huh.
So,
Alright. So not too much
you could
actual action. Pretty over the top. Alright.
So Rai, you could actually answer a question for me, probably.
What's up?
Is the same guy who's doing 01 also doing Saber? Because I'm still having a hard time remembering I'm very bad with names, so when I heard who was going to be Saber, I didn't recognize the name.
The suit actor?
Suit actor or
Yeah, the
writer?
suit actor.
Oh.
I don't think it's been announced yet. I'll double check, but I didn't see anything the last time I checked last week.
Yeah.
I saw a post on Twitter a couple days ago. I thought maybe you've seen
Okay,
it
so
too.
maybe it was announced since the last time I checked.
I mean, if you want to look, I have an interesting thing to talk about Saber, which is cool that we have the tweet of basically the actor who's playing Saber. Maybe it's in general. One moment.
Yes, it is a different suit actor. Kosuke Asai.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting how we had the kind of this passing of the torch from Takaiwa to Yuya. What's the name of the?
It's
new
Vulcan.
one for Zero,
Yeah.
right?
It's Vulcan.
It's the suit actor.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
cool.
suit actor for Vulcan.
It's just
He
interesting
did-
that we end up getting a relatively new guy, like someone who hasn't been in the main character seat yet.
Yeah,
a whole
well,
new
the thing is-
person who hasn't done that again for Saber.
Right. I'm guessing it's more like they don't want to make another Mr. Kamen Rider, or is like have the problem of like one guy has to do like 10 fucking shows back to back. It's gonna like
That's probably smarter, yeah.
it like it
So
damages.
I mean, do that to someone.
Right, like the problem the Rider fights have kind of gotten a little more limited for a while was because Mr. Kamen Rider is kind of freaking getting old and can't do all like the flippy shit as much anymore. So like that's why like if you see like Scorpion's fighting style, it's a lot more just like direct and way more power oriented, which is cool for like a Rider show because like it's dynamic because he's had so many years of training, but it's like it's more of a villain thing because like it's just power based, right? Because he's got limited mobility or slightly limited, right?
And Kosuke has some Sentai experience as well. Recently, Aka Ninja, Jewel Eagle, and Lupin Red, and even more before that.
Oh, so characters tend to be, well, at least Aka. Did you say Aka Ninja or Aka Red?
Aka Ninja.
Aka Ninja, yeah. So we got a character there that's good with a sword. That's really good to have for Saber.
Oh no shit. Okay, was he in Wizard? Because like Wizard has like the best Rider sword fights. Is anybody?
What I've seen, no.
He was in Wizard actually, but it doesn't say what his role was.
Yeah, that's good because like as long as they get somebody who fucking worked on Wizard, it'd be good because like sword fight wise, I think Wizard at the moment has like the best incorporation of like the sword fights. Yeah, because like I mean, Wizard is an effects heavy show, but like they were trying not to rely so much on effects.
Oh yeah, can't wait for Wizard 2.
To be fair, like Wizard's problem is like executive meddling, right? So and Ghost's problem was executive meddling, and his writer at least gets a second try, so like at least he could write something good. Anyway, the thing I was trying to look up is the tweet from the main actor who's gonna be Saber, and them like acknowledging like the Western audience where he's like, yeah.
Didn't I post that in the chat?
Yeah, that's. I mean, if you want, you can read that.
I mean, I feel like I posted that recently.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, there it is. Yep, I'll be playing the role of the main character, Kamiyama Toma, Kamen Rider Saber. I'll try my best so that overseas fans love the show too. Please wish me luck for the coming year of Kamen Rider.
Yeah, and then there's like 200. Last time I checked, like 250 retweets of like people just wishing him luck in English. So I'm like,
it's up to like 500.
That is so cool.
See, that's the thing I like being on Twitter for, is actually getting. That's the good thing about being a part of a fandom, with these heartwarming connections you get to make.
Yeah, I also feel
cast
like
and crew.
Right. I also feel like since Rider finally freaking had like a premiere in the West, right? Like Toei has finally started acknowledging the Western fan. Also, like I feel like since the rise of VTubers, Japan has slightly kind of been more aware of like, yes, the West watches your shit, Japan. Like throw us a bone every once in a while. It's not like we're invisible. Right?
To be fair, they've always had some sort of knowledge of that, at least over the last couple of years. Basically, since TV Nihon's been a thing, considering the fact that TV Nihon's had conversations with Toei.
Yeah, but like, it's
Where
always
Toei went, we don't care.
Yeah, pretty much. Toei
market.
always kind of does that. It's like, yeah, we don't give a shit. Just stay out of our way, right? It was like recently. I feel like they're. I feel like they're actually trying to freaking like acknowledge the audience properly, because like all the other franchises are doing it, right? Like Ultraman's doing it, Garo's doing it. Well, Sentai not so much, but considering they have Power Rangers, they always have kind of had a knowledge.
Well, no, there's like 10 series with English subtitles of Sentai out in America now, and they're available on like Roku apps and stuff like that. It's just that Hasbro, when they took the reins for Power Rangers, said, "Hey, actually stop doing that. Yeah, fuck you." And now we can't have those anymore.
And Toei turned around and went, "Fuck you, we're still putting them out."
I mean, like there hasn't been any new Sentai official subs, though, is the problem.
Yeah, but at least they're focusing on Rider now, so I mean, maybe something good came out of that. It's like Toei had to reprioritize Rider. I mean,
yeah, we've got Kuga officially on Verve and Tokusatsu.
The original Kuga.
We've got the 71 series, and we've got the Heisei Generations Forever movie.
Right. I mean, Amazon's is also out. Amazon's.
We got Amazon's and we got Shin. Although Amazon's and Shin are not through Tokusatsu.
Yeah, I mean, considering like Kamen Rider the first, and then I'm not sure about the next, but Kamen Rider the first definitely had a Western release.
That's true. It actually had like just legit DVDs.
Right.
I think they were trying. I think there was a lot of stuff like that back then where they were trying to get out like more serious anime-esque J-dramas out on DVD to see if they could find an audience here.
Right. I mean, to be fair, that was like Fai's era, so like 2004. That was like a fucking lifetime ago, pretty much, in Toei's mind. Yeah, it's interesting, but like at least they're trying. For God's sakes, Toei, you have a fucking app. Just stop region locking that shit. Right? Like, people will pay you. Just let them give you money. Right? It's insane. But at least they're starting to acknowledge it.
This recent thread that was going around basically about don't pirate anime even if it's not available in your country. It's not for you.
Oh, fuck that
so fucking shit. Entitled.
And
I hate that shit.
And it's like, the only reason we have anime in the West now is because we pirated it when it wasn't available.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, nice job, Hotshots, but it's like...
It's always these backward-ass fucking Hollywood types. They're not really Hollywood, but like LA types trying to fucking tell you not to...
It's the corporate
pirate shit. It's the people in LA and Austin, Texas, and fucking...
who connected to the brand.
Shit in Canada.
This was just a person.
No, I know, but usually it's the mindset of like, hey, don't do it because it's bad. I'm like, all right, technically it's bad. It's like, yeah, support the production. I'm like, that could have worked in the era where we had anime fucking dub companies. Not anymore. Those are all gone. Funimation's pretty much the only one left, right? Like, you have online platforms, but I'm like, that doesn't matter to us. Like, we can't change the online platform. Right, that's a business back-end business deal. Like, whatever the fuck Crunchyroll or Funimation or Amazon decide to license is whatever they license, right? Like, if they started to take out all their anime, it's like, all right, maybe it'll have an impact on their budget, but literally they could just flood it with another thing. They don't give a shit. They'll make money regardless, right? So having this thing of like, oh no, they really listen, or like vote by your dollar, that kind of bullshit is like, look, that's a nice sentiment, but in the real world, that doesn't work, right? Like, nobody would even know these things would be popular if there wasn't an audience sitting here doing the shit. Like, we have to fucking fan sub this shit because you won't, like, again, like, I'm complaining, like, hey, Toei, you have an official app. Just fucking allow it to be available.
Yeah, if you give me something to buy, I'll buy it, but not until then. I'm not going to make a commitment to buy something that I don't know you're going to sell me. And also, like, yeah, like, Rai, you're right. There are definitely just, like, random-ass people who say it, but, like, there were also a couple tweets that blew up around the same time as the one you were reading from, where it was some fucking voice actor saying it, and I'm like, oh my god, no, I am not listening to some fucking, like, avocado toast eating fuckhead in LA telling me what the fuck to do when I'm living in poverty.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, they do have a point. It's like, yeah, support the official releases and stuff when I come in. I'm like, fair, but I'm like, all right, to get to the level of the official releases, right? Like, to get to the level that the fucking 71 like writer shows up. Like, who the fuck thinks publishing a show from like 40 years ago will make any money?
Yeah,
right?
unless we're
unless there's an audience, and how are you gonna have an audience if you never publish shit? Oh right, the fans will have to fucking do it themselves.
And then there's like Yeah, exactly. And then also, like, even if they do publish it, if they region lock it or they don't sell the products in other countries, then those countries still have to pirate.
Right, it's the same thing of like video game piracy. It's like, yeah, the reason video game piracy exists for the most part is it's a distribution problem, not a fucking piracy problem. It's the, hey, I would buy this if I could get it. I can't get it, so I'm gonna do this instead.
Furthermore, if they don't sell me a product I can afford, obviously I'm not in the market to buy it either. So if I can't fucking afford it, well, listen, their fucking interest for making a profit isn't going to determine what I want to do on a fucking Saturday afternoon.
Right,
Or
I mean,
any
like,
afternoon or evening for that matter. If I fucking feel like watching something, I'm gonna fucking watch it. And I don't want somebody who's only interested in my money fucking telling me what I'm gonna do.
I mean, that does sound a little entitled, but you're right. This is a good point because, like, this is the Bandai of America problem of like, hey, Gundam's decently popular. Let's release it in America. Oh yeah, we're gonna keep the Japanese prices, which is, hey, you get a DVD with like 3 episodes, and it's gonna cost the same amount as a box set, pretty much. And it's like, enjoy. It's like, of course that's not gonna sell. We don't have that kind of market. Fuck, Japan doesn't have that kind of market. Why do you think rentals are still a thing in Japan? Right? Like,
I think when it comes to entitlement, if I can get something and there's nothing stopping me from doing it, I don't really see why I shouldn't get it unless it's immoral. And I would not say that piracy is even immoral. So
To clarify my stance, because things got like a little out of hand here. Rider, like, is only recently becoming an officially released in the West, but for the most part is largely unavailable. Therefore, pirating fan subs is the only way to watch it.
right, exactly. I'm like, hey, there's like 20 years of Heisei, right? Where's your alternative?
We just got the first official release.
Right.
20 years and we just got the first.
Right, it's like, I could see a counter argument where it's like, all right, this is not a streaming service, just pay for it, like $10 or something. I'm like, fair, that's fine. Or even if they're like, oh, here's all the box set, fine. But I'm like, do you even have a release window for the rest of them? What's your window, like 20 years? Are we gonna go one a year? Right, like that is not an acceptable release thing, especially considering fan sub have them all subbed. You literally could just rip them to DVD. At this point.
Okay, to be fair, I'm actually friends with some of the people who are getting Kamen Fest, and they're not planning on doing it that slow.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, it's like, that's kind of a bullshit argument from privilege. It's like, hey, you can say that because guess what? Crunchyroll exists now. Don't pirate anime. I'm like, kind of fair, not really, but sure. But I'm like, hey, Crunchyroll didn't exist for like all the other years that fucking the anime fans had to make and keep anime alive.
But also, like, if the anime isn't available on Crunchyroll, it's not available on Verve, it's not available, it's just not localized to the West in any way other than fan subs,
I mean,
then that just becomes the only way to watch it.
hell, let me tell you one other thing. You guys are like, oh, it's not on Crunchyroll or whatever. I'm like, right, Verve, not even in Canada. Hulu does not exist in Canada. Netflix,
so you've got it worse.
No, Netflix Canada doesn't have anywhere near the shit that Netflix America has. Right? So, like, we have it much worse. PBS Access does not work in Canada. You have to literally fucking pirate it or hope Netflix Canada somehow made a deal.
Like, if there's an official release, yes, support the official release. But if there is no official release, then you just can't support something that doesn't exist.
Right. So it's kind of like an argument of like, oh, I want to sound morally superior, and it's like, no, there's a lot of complicated moving parts in this issue.
And like, it even comes down to like
morally superior, or they just talk about things fucking understand, as if they feel like their opinion matters despite having not read.
Alright, so back to 01, because let's wrap this up. So we have a time skip. Aruto. So the storm has settled. The damages are being repaired. Aruto is still the president of Hidden Intelligence. I thought he was going to leave. I was wrong. He's going to keep working towards building a world where human and human gear get along. Human gear rights are starting to be instated. Thouser is living his best life in the basement.
With a parade of Thouser.
Yep, he's got a bunch of dogs. Thanks, Sony. Toei appreciates your money.
And who better to have them than Thousand Island?
I think I read somewhere on Twitter that they went to this fucking technology institute, like the writers did, and that's where they saw the Aibos, and they weren't at first planning on putting them in. Clearly, they changed their mind. This is fucking ridiculous. What the fuck is this show? I love
the best Sony product placement there is, I guess.
And I'm sorry, if you have the money to pay for a $3,000 fucking robot dog, you've got too much money.
No, well, okay. Here's the counter argument to that: is like a lot of people, like in every time like you go into an Aibo like announcement video, it's like, oh, just get a real dog. I'm like, okay, buddy, do you know how much a fucking real dog costs? Do you know how much it costs in food? Do you know how much it costs to take care of the fucking thing?
Do you know how much the initial vet bill to get his shots cost?
Yeah, right.
To be,
like even if that was all
was not
cheaper.
my argument.
No, I know. But even if that was all cheaper, you have to remember this is for Japan. Most people in Japan don't have dogs because most people live in apartment complexes where they can't.
But it's not though.
What?
They're selling these everywhere.
No. I know they're selling them everywhere, but the major market is still
website. They cost me $3,000.
Right. I mean, the major market is still Japan, though, and the reason why like the Japanese pet industry thing kind of works in Japan is because most people have cats. That's why like cat culture is huge in Japan. Is because cats a lot less uptake, a lot easier to keep in a fucking apartment. Right? That's basically why. People still like dogs. They can't really keep dogs because where are you gonna fucking run a dog around in an apartment?
Also, like the animal deposit for Japanese apartments is super fucking high on top of the already high cost of living.
Right. So it's like you have to remember when they made this thing, it was for a Japanese market, so it kind of made a little more sense there. A little less sense here, but then again, it's still a luxury item. But I'm like, $3,000 is fucking expensive. But it's like most people still have cars in Japan, even though they're ridiculously expensive, right?
I would say that raising a dog is still probably more expensive in the long.
Oh yeah, like that's one of the most insane things. Like honestly, because like I grew up like southern hemisphere, right? Like of the fucking planet. So like you move to the north and it's like, oh yeah, this is a dog and this is how much it costs and like to raise it and all this shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's not like, it's literally like raising another fucking child or something. Like it's insane. Right? Like it's so much cheaper where I grew up, and now it's like, holy shit, like just for like basically the whole like, it's so capitalized, like everything is so overpriced because we can market everything for it. Right. Anyway.
So Nagi, Yua instates Nagi as the first Human Gear member of AIMS.
Naki is looking so fucking good in that suit.
I know, right?
Fucking
it's so perfect.
Representing my non-binary siblings right there and doing it well.
Meanwhile, woman gets into a car crash. She's stuck in her car. Motherfucking Fua comes up, punches out the window with his bare hand, and rips the door off its hinges.
Well, I
no
thought
rider powers at all. That's all him.
Yeah, I thought he just like hit it with his elbow, but like the point is, he still ripped the fucking door off the hinges with his bare hands.
And again,
because,
he broke the window, broken glass, and then grabbed the windowsill to get a grip on the door, where there is probably still broken glass.
Right? And it's not like
the guy who's been. To be fair, this is the guy who's been running around punching fucking bullets.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, okay, you could maybe take tempered glass, but I'm like, that's like a windshield thing. right? Like unlike, well, actually no, windshield isn't laminated. Side windows probably tempered, so it should be fine.
I think that that would have might a little bit better for Fua is have him start a basically like a locksmithing business, except instead of breaking into locks,
He just comes in, punches the door off.
Yeah, he just punches it.
He just like grabs the door handle and pulls, and the entire like door handle just rips out of the door.
Oh,
I fixed
man.
it. Who are you? Where'd you come from? I didn't even hire you.
Just passing
I'm
through
broken.
Kamen Rider.
Oh man, so he's like one of those old school cops where it's like, oh shit, my car door is locked, you call a cop to open it, and it's like, well, I mean, they don't do that now because the locksmith sued them, but they used to do that. So Fua's like,
It's just like when Blade like punches the screen in the Blade intro.
oh god, it's so
Just
true.
breaks it.
Yo, I was gonna say, oh, he's completed his transformation into being Shotaro from Double now, right?
Yeah,
Where it's
except
like he
Double
just got
didn't
the same
fucking work
ending.
it out.
Right? Did you see that freaking like Tumblr image of like, oh, like it's Shotaro and Philip, and then it's like Naki and Fua? I'm like, man,
I saw that. Yeah,
that is so
That
good.
was- yeah, I like that. I like Fua and Naki's dynamic a lot. It's kind of like a different twist on Shotaro and Philip, at least to me. It's like you've got this other consciousness living in your head, and eventually you figure out how to become friends with it. It's a good story.
Right? It's sort of like, I mean, again, Emu and Peridot a little bit.
There's a closeness there that I think is really.
Yeah, it's. I think Fua, like, they really didn't know what the hell to do with this ending, so they just gave him, oh, I'm just the Kamen Rider. Do the Kamen Rider who goes on a journey, because Arto can't do it, he's the president. Right, so you need one
Yeah.
of the riders to do it, and then Yua's basically running the department now, so she can't do it.
And Thousand Island is grounded.
Yes! Oh god, it's so
Dog
true.
jail.
It's freaking great, man. That's gonna feed into the movie somehow. You know it. He even got his driver back. I guess he made it, so he just made another one. But it's like, why?
I feel like he's just gonna become like a comic gag villain in the future. And on one hand, he is really funny, but for me, it's funny not because it's intentionally funny, but I find the fact that they're trying to be funny as the thing that is funny. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, a lot of people still aren't happy with Guy's development. I would agree with them on that. Like, Guy is probably one of the biggest issues in this show. But otherwise, for the most part, this is pretty solid. Like, the only thing I really have an kind of annoyance is the Izu thing.
They did kind of stuff her in a fridge.
Well, I mean, I was fine with,
Plus-
well, sort of. I mean, like, they had a really good story to tell with that, so it's fine. But yeah, it's annoying that she had to die. But what's really annoying is, like, Arta just brought her back, and then she's like, oh, give me a name. And I'm like, all right, just name her
We'll get to
something
that.
else. Just
We'll get to that.
Yeah, okay.
Name her
But
weird.
yeah, that's pretty much my only complaint.
Up on the rooftops, Jin meets with the newly built Jin meets with a newly built Hirobi. Hirobi is going to rebuild Metsubo Jinrai with the goal of being the world's silent protectors, preventing the arc from being reborn.
He's Batman.
Vashi,
Except he's
what
dressed
happened
ridiculously.
when Jin's actor finished filming his final scene?
He fucking bald.
Aw, I didn't hear about that.
To be fair,
Wow.
this is the first thing he's actually acted in. Him and Arto both. Neither one of them had acted in anything before. And this is as per their all-up interviews.
Holy shit. I mean, especially considering, like, Jin definitely is going to have a huge career after this. Like, you know, like, like Philip and Deno.
But both of them, and even Hirobi, all three of them lost it at the end of it. Jin was having a hard time because the last thing he filmed was the speech to Azu. That was the last thing he filmed, and he was having a hard time during it, and he attributed a lot of everything that he's done throughout the show to him basically being shown what to do because he didn't know what to do to start with. He was a burden, he was troublesome, he was a problem, and basically he had to be wrangled and basically taught how to do it. So it was very, very emotional for him. And that Hirobi, like I said, Hirobi lost his shit, and then Aruto lost his shit as well. Fua, however, did not.
Well, I mean,
But
I don't.
He did say he was close to. He just held it back.
That sounds like. I mean, if
That sounds in character.
If he's at all similar to Fua, that tracks.
Right. I also feel like this is probably not his first thing. Because I think like Fu and you are definitely probably and Guy obviously are like the older members. So like I definitely feel like they probably have other acting stuff because like they can actually act pretty decently, like consistent. Like here's the thing, like they're pretty solid, but like acting wise, they haven't really grown too much. It's more like they had a chance to show their acting prowess, whereas like Arto and Jin, you can actually see their actors growing throughout the show, right? Like it's sort of like Sogo, when you see him in like the crossover movie to like you remember how he was in the beginning. It's like like you learn how to actually act.
And that's one of the things I like about Tokusatsu is like a lot of the times you see a really cool new actor come into their own.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was saying. It's like Kamen Rider is actually a decent launching platform because like Kuga's actor is fucking huge. Deno's actor, Philip is in like so much shit. Like as we talked about, like the build guys. Oh, also freaking Dr. Maki from O's, and he was also in Amazon's, is also in Japanese 24 with the build guys. So that's gonna be
always one of the best actors in O's. I think he had such an incredible presence. Like it was just so weird to pull off a character. Like I think it's really skillful.
Well, yeah, I mean, plus then you see him like Amazon and you forget that he was in O's because he's just this like freaking cutthroat businessman dude. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool. It's a good story.
I remember like one of the things that got me into Tokusatsu was there's a chance like in an alternate universe or something that I only watched Gokai. Because I was just like, hey, this Gokaiger has all the other Sentai in it. Sure, I like Power Rangers. Let's just take a look at this. And then when I finished it, pretty quickly, what I ended up finding was videos of after Gokaiger when they were done filming, and Ryota Ozawa just losing it, just breaking down and crying, trying to deliver his final speech, and everybody comforting. I'm like, holy shit, like, I put so much stock into this cast and the bonds that this Sentai had, and those bonds were shared by the cast members. I'm like, there's a level of authenticity, and I like that experience made me seek more experiences like I end up really appreciating a cast's chemistry.
Oh, okay. So moving on, because I don't want to drag this out any longer. We're approaching 2 hours. Azu gives the Eden driver to the movie villain. No.
I mean, the movie villain looks pretty cool in both in and out of the suit. I think he looks neat.
My only issue with him even existing, is he's movie bait. Movie bait is standard, but it breaks the pacing of this.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in this.
They could have literally tagged it on at the end of the show before they did the whole "Hey, here comes Satan."
Yeah, I would have preferred credits roll, and then you get a trailer for the movie.
You know
Right.
what though?
Well, the thing
I
is, they
think that
don't.
Azu's new outfit is better than her old one because I didn't like how the red didn't match the green. Now her whole outfit's like this gothic aesthetic. I like it.
Okay, that's fair. Um, I was gonna say like, yeah, Japan doesn't really do the fucking Marvel thing, especially for a kids show. So I guess like most people wouldn't stick around and see that. So that's why they were worried. It's like, hey, go watch our freaking movie. We worked
Actually,
on
they
it.
do that. They've been doing that for decades before Marvel. That was an anime thing to me before it was a Marvel thing. For sure, they always put stuff in at the end of the.
Right. I
Extremely
know,
common.
but the thing is like, nobody thought this freaking movie is gonna come out, and then they're announcing it's coming out as like this final episode's kind of happening, right? So it's like, hey, people go watch this. We freaking made it, right? So like they have to, like that's kind of the issue with this ending. It's like it's a lot of like, oh, we needed to guarantee this for like maximum audience satisfaction. It's like, hey, we made this movie. Here's the trailer. Go watch it. Or hey, we brought this character back, or this is happening, or that's happening. It's like thematically you could have ended this without that stuff, but it's like, well, people want a happy ending, so we're gonna put all this in for a happy ending. I'm like, it kind of like took a little dent out of how good this episode was, but it wasn't terrible or anything.
Yeah. Aruto has recreated Izu's appearance to make a new human gear, a new president's assistant. He decides to name her Izu again, and he begins to retrain her the way the original Izu was, starting with his infamous puns.
I love how
I mean,
they
if
get
you're
the
gonna start anywhere,
right. I love how he had the trainer to get the timing down for his like signature.
My
was
problem
funny.
is that Aruto didn't train the original Izu to do that. She learned it on her own by watching him.
Right.
My problem is that this isn't Izu.
Yeah. My other thing too is like I wish he would have given her a different name. Because then it's like, right, we're keeping like the legacy of Izu, but it's like this is a whole different person. And I
like
know
they
why
sort
they're
of-
doing it. It's because it's to tie into the movie, where it's like, oh right, that's why like Sesta pretty much says like, oh, you're just gonna like teach her all this stuff and it'll make her like the old Izu, and it's like basically yes, and that's all just set up for the movie. You know, goddamn, that's pretty much what it is. It's also for like a happy ending, but I'm like, honestly, I would have preferred if they didn't do that. They would have been like, oh right, Izu was this good friend I had. She died, making the world a better place, but you know, you can be somebody who carries on in her footsteps type of thing, like, you know, like Izu's brother and her.
It's just so like they go and they say, oh, human gears have human hearts. They're irreplaceable. So let's just replace Izu and expect it to be the same person. It doesn't track with the show's moral philosophy, but I feel like maybe, and this is big brain time here, so take it with a grain of salt. But like, I think what they might do is, due to the themes of Eden with the new bad guy, that in the movie he's gonna try to create some Humagear utopia where even Izu can come back. And then wouldn't it be fucking Kino if Aruto had to realize that this utopia of Eden is fake because he has to realize the original Izu is irreplaceable.
Right, so wizard ending. Right?
Well,
Like,
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck happens at the end of Wizard, dude.
no, okay, so
Fuck.
so basically like
That
Wizard's villains thing is like, I'm going fuck the world, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna bring this person back to life regardless of what any of you fuckers say.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Wizard's
the
like,
name-
no, you're doing this against their will. Like, knock it off. It sucks that they're dead, but they're dead.
So it's like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Maybe.
know.
I
I
haven't
didn't
played
play that.
Tag.
So, I do have to concede something. Episode 1 of 01. Our first podcast on it. My very first prediction about the show was wrong. I thought that the final words of this show would be Aruto telling Izu, please do not explain the joke. And they
So
almost
close.
did it.
So close.
They
So close.
almost did it, but instead he backtracks to say, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, they're pretty close. Also,
That almost
also
is kind
Vashi.
of like a joke in and of itself, that they make you expect it, but then they just kind of don't quite do it.
Also, Vashi, where's my goddamn shocker crossover episode? So many fucking episodes.
Weren't you the one
No,
saying?
no. I
Shocker?
said it because Vashi's like, "Oh, it's gonna happen." I'm like, "Well, I could see it," and now I have
I
like
didn't say it was
fucking like
going
20
to, it was
episodes
just one of the
stringing
theories.
together where Shocker can show up. Like, if you go
You
and
know what they
watch,
actually did?
You
They actually brought Foundation X back in this new 01 video game. So
Jesus Christ,
That's
are
what
they
they did
seriously
instead of
back?
Shocker.
Are they seriously back? The
They are
shittiest
back.
fucking part of Heisei.
But now they're gonna actually try to explain it because it's the two series that had to do with Foundation X plus 01. So I don't know.
Are they finally
Cool.
gonna do something with that gas jet they stole?
I don't think there's gonna be any gas shots in the new video.
What was the
because
point of them
X-Aid
being in that X8 movie? Tell me.
Just I don't know.
What
just
was
to
the
make a
point of them
reference.
existing?
Well, the existence was to be better and newer Shocker, but they failed
And
so
then they
hard.
failed.
So hard.
Okay. So
Anyway, so
we're
yeah.
approaching 2 hours, so
I was gonna
final
say-
thoughts on Zio. Go. 01. Go.
yeah, like
Zio sucks. 01 is awful.
I was gonna say, like, say your piece about the whole show if you want, like your overall
I mean-
thoughts on it. Go, whoever.
I'll let Henshin go first since he's
Okay.
at the top of the list.
So what I would say is I'm mostly okay with it. I find the thing with Izu possibly coming back being questionable because I don't really believe that it tracks with the message of the show. I don't think a human gear should be replaceable and still be able to be considered the same person. And I also don't think that
On
yes,
that real quick. Every human gear has been like that. Everyone.
So the way that I
Well,
felt
except
about
Izu
the
didn't have
human
a
gears
backup.
coming back
Izu is the only one. Well, Izu and Waz are literally the only two that didn't come back as they died.
But that's not the,
Everybody
that's not
else
the
has come
point I'm
back
making.
exactly.
What I'm saying is they have a identical personality module, but they don't have the same memories or experiences that changed their personalities. They just have the same base personality. But now he's saying Izu can be exactly the same. I don't know. It just doesn't track to me.
Teach her the same thing, she'll be the same person.
Yeah, Aruto is
Yeah.
trying to restore her to how she was before.
I just don't think that that's really gonna. I just don't really think it's logical for that to be possible because she can't have the same experiences.
Right.
Yeah,
like-
no, that's part of my problem with what Aruto is doing.
Exactly. So that's why I don't really think it works for that. And
Like,
with
here's the thing. She could have
Hiromi-
Izu's sense of humor, but, like, she didn't go through all the 01 fights and shit to get all that
Yeah.
experience. Unless you're literally dumping that data straight from the driver.
Which, I mean, okay, I guess that's lame, but it works. The other thing is that with Hirobi, this could be fixed in the movie. All my complaints could be fixed in the movie, technically. But with Hirobi, I wish that Hirobi's connection to the arc was explained better. I did not feel the way that Hirobi got involved with the arc to be very clear in the first place. So I kind of have a problem with that. But other than that, I think the character resolutions, like pretty much everybody's story arc, wrapped up really well, except for guys. But maybe that would have turned out better if it had the show had 5 or 6 more episodes. Overall, it's pretty good, and I found the presentation of the final episode very impressive. I think that the things that they did throughout it were really good on a production level overall, so I'm pretty excited for Reiwaira. And that's basically my thoughts without rambling too much.
So, Zero One was a phenomenal show, and the most I've enjoyed a Rider series in a while. The middle was pretty rough, yes, particularly the challenge arc, but everything around that in both directions was superb. And I mentioned before that like this might be the show to have a better ending than Blade. It may have finally done it. I'm gonna have to sit on it and think for a bit, but it might have done it.
I mean, it's close, but I think like Blade's whole thing is they weren't trying to do anything after Blade for the most part. So, like, I feel like if they didn't do anything of the movie tie-ins, they might have tied it, but the movie tie-ins kind of drag it down.
No, I'm gonna ignore Eden.
All right. I mean, that's up to you. I
Okay.
think Blade is still like perfect ending because they kept it bittersweet, whereas Zero One needed to make it like a happy ending. So, yeah, I feel like it took it down just slightly, but it's really solid. Go ahead, Vash.
Now, if we're going to ignore the end of Zio and just harp on the fact of the Zio episode for Blade, then yes, I'm sorry, Blade's ending beats out this ending. Because it goes from bittersweet to perfection. With Zio, like Rice said, this has been one of the most enjoyable seasons of Rider that I've ever watched. From start to finish, it's been a blast. Even as much as I hated the Thousand Island arc, mainly because the payoff didn't validate what we've been shown. But again, that's most likely due to things being cut. Given how solid the rest of this series has been, that seems more likely the case. This writer he started out really good with X-Aid, and then he's upped his game for this and did a fantastic job. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to Realize it every week again.
I don't know. You could put it on
Spotify.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, I meant in this aspect, I won't be able to sit there and get hyped up for the show that I'm getting ready to watch the way I did with Zero One.
At least the new theme song is ska.
Oh, we're going back to O's for real? Like, holy shit. I was like making all the O's jokes before, but like, goddamn, they're doubling down on the O's now.
The new
The O's opening theme is one of my favorite.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah, that song fucking slaps.
Yeah, as for this, holy shit. Yeah, I do agree. This show is really good. The only problem is Guy's arc. Honestly, I mean, like the Matsubo Jinrai, you can give them more episodes, but that's not a show problem. That's a we want more with these characters thing, right?
Ultimately, it comes down to you drop the ball on Thousand Island.
Yeah, so exactly right. Like most of the problems in this show is just Bowser's arc is what's screwing it up, and considering they cut his ass down in this final arc, that definitely helped out. Right, and it also kind of fixed the problem of recent Rider where like their final arcs were really iffy, but like this show had a really solid final arc. So that's why we're probably feeling a lot better about the show than like most other shows because like, hey, good solid ending. You know, that's pretty rare, especially lately. So that's great. As for the rest of the show, like Arto definitely grew a lot. Fua definitely grew, especially when you figure out like how much behind the scenes, like small stuff that they put in. Damn, Yua lived, which is fucking amazing. Like holy shit, female writer alive. Especially you
Kind
also
of makes up for them fridging Izu.
Yeah,
bit, to be
that's
honest.
I mean, and out of nowhere, freaking Naki existing, right? Like first non-binary writer also, and they also survived. Like, damn, holy shit. That's why I love.
Someday I hope that Kibo 2 can shake Naki.
Nice. That, like, it's kind of amazing that they get to do that speech at the end where it's like, yeah, what does it mean to be a writer? It's pretty much like accept people's differences and try to make the world a better place. And I was like, that is fucking amazing. The production in this show is insane, right? Like, we have literally really hit a new era at this point. Right? Like you go back and watch older shows and it's like, yeah, damn, like this show just like stepped up a notch. I also like, even though there's like so many writers, like it doesn't feel insane. Like the gimmicks aren't as crazy. So it's good, like they balanced out the collecting thing by like giving more belts to sell, because there's like so many freaking rider belts in this show.
Kind of want to collect all the belts, just to say that I just someday long goal, not
I was gonna say, do you have the money for that?
Yeah, I'm like,
I don't, but maybe if I get like one a year by the end of the first 10 Reiwa, I could be like, I collected all the 01 belts.
well, the thing is, like every show that passes, those belts are gonna add like at least another $100 on their price tag.
I don't care. I'm not gonna even collect the rest of the
It
belts.
was $80. It was $80.
Belts.
It was $80 to start with, $60 to start with. I can only imagine where it's going to be in about a week and a half.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like standard online is like, well, now it's like 200 starting, and
I always
it's gonna
find
end up
good
like
deals.
$600.
I never pay full retail for like any.
Yeah,
So
that's
usually
fair. I mean, especially rider belts, man.
I
like,
just
the markup.
I
is
just
insane.
wait. So,
Well,
like, I just wait
well,
a
the
while.
problem is like, yeah, I'm like, oh, just wait, and then I was like looking at older Heisei belts, and I'm like, shit, this shit is so overpriced. Like Neo Heisei belts too.
You could just depends what. I've seen. I bought a double driver. Some.
Yeah, but like they mass produced the shit out of the like try like the Fies belts.
Before they reprinted.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully they're getting better, but it's like this show is really solid. Honestly, I like the arc, like the arc belt that Arto uses. It's so nice and simple. Like out of all the belts in the show, I think I like that one the most.
I like its announcements a lot. Hatred, destruction, extinction.
Nice. Yeah, this is honestly a really good show. Really solid, as like Vashi said, or I guess Rai and Vashi. But like, yeah, I haven't enjoyed a writer show in a while, and damn, this like final arc actually makes up for all that crap. Because like, usually when we end a show, it's like, oh god, thank god that's over. Right, like hopefully the next one's better, and now it's like shit, that was actually really good. Hopefully the next one can live up.
Better.
Sorry, what?
I said the next one was finally better. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, that's no, it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, now it's actually set a standard. Like you have to be at least this good.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. I mean, hopefully Saber is good. It's another writer versus writer show. I mean, they're doing something interesting, I think, where it's like they have teams of writers, so that'll be interesting. But other than that, this show definitely worth recommending people watch this show. Like, if you want to get into writer, I said this is one of the good ones to start with now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd probably should start with. It's like it doesn't have a lot of like legacy components that require additional explanation, which is good. And yeah, it's just solid.
Anyway, right. Good show, good episode, good series. Good characters, good actors. Thouser is still not great.
If you were on the fence about this one because of that middle, I'd say power through it and get to the good stuff.
Here's a recommendation. Just like Agito, ignore all the Akatsuki shit. 01, flip a coin if you're interested in watching this Thouser scene or not.
When it comes to the workplace arc, it was annoying to have to go through it week by week. But one thing I liked was getting to see all these different jobs being portrayed, and I read about how they put in a lot of effort researching all the different jobs. And I feel like if you just spam that arc in like a day or two, depending on how much tolerance for watching a single show per day you have, the average person could knock it out in a day or two, and I don't think it'll be that bad if you're not waiting for it week by week. I think there's actually some good the workplace competition.
That's fair. And with that, considering my podcasters are like half falling asleep at this point, right? Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone.
It is past 11 for me.
Right, that's fair.
I blame you too.
Yeah, that's true. It's my fault. Sorry,
Yeah,
man.
it's impossible to have me on a podcast.
No, I
and
was
not have it be
trying,
2
but I'm like,
hours.
it's the finale. Let's gush a little bit. And thanks, Rai, for doing all this writer stuff, putting up with all our nonsense for all this time. Watch the quality of the show go down the drain now, but at least Sentai will be good.
Normally I would say no problem, but there was at least a half-year period where I was keeping this podcast going.
Oh god, yeah, it's so true. So true.
Hey, you know, I was watching Ryder. I just didn't feel like being on a podcast.
Oh, good. Dude, I was like barely watching Ryder at that point. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thanks all for joining us. And I guess we will catch you next time on Saber. Schedule and stuff we will determine depending on how many people are going to show up and whatever. Stuff might get moved around. It might stay the same. We'll worry about that some other time. But anyway, thank you all for watching Saber, or not Saber, 01 with us. Catch you in Saber, I guess. Right. Later.
Henshin, you go. Say bye.
I'm Gokai Platinum from Henshin Sunrise. Well, bye everyone. 01 was cool. Thanks for watching. And I will be sure to be here to make the Saber podcast 2 hours long as well.
Don't though.
I'll try to keep it like 1 hour. Okay.
I'll just hit end and leave.
Yeah. From now on, we're gonna try to keep them 1 hour at like as average.
Look, it's Zero's job to wrangle me.
Yeah, I'll figure something out.
So, thanks for joining us. It was fun doing this, and I'll still be like sending my thoughts to all of you about Saber as I can watch it. But I'll still be around to do the Care Major podcast.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Rai, for several years of service on this.
Yeah, honestly, thank you.
Consider the fact that we've been doing this since like 2016, 17, because we started with X8.
X8 2016, 4 years.
Because that was 2016, 2017. So yeah, this has been going on for a very long time. I have missed a fair chunk of it due to my own scheduling issues, so I understand the need to take a step back. I will try to keep everything up and running, hopefully fairly well on what I can deal with.
Look, man, don't worry about it. I'll fucking do it solo if I have to.
Along with the help of Zero, we'll both find a way to keep this going because I really do enjoy doing all this stuff, and I've enjoyed the last couple of years running this podcast with you. I will still be around for the Sentai